Hey there. Thank you for being here today. We're a little bit early. The broadcast, I scheduled it accidentally 5 minutes early. So I am going to just have some fun here. Let's just see what this part starts.
Welcome to Better Credit, Better Home, your source for the latest local and national news that can impact you if you are in the market for real estate. Here are your hosts, the Kingwood Mortgage Guy, Mike Durr, who uses his 25 years as a mortgage professional to help people improve their credit, and Joe Salas, an accomplished home inspector, real estate agent, and trainer of new agents for Jane Bird Property International. Together, they will help you understand what you need to know to get the most out of your real estate investment. Let's get started.
Joe, just in time.
What's going on, Mike?
So when I scheduled this, I did a little bit of the work early today, and it didn't allow me to start it right at 5 o'clock. It was 4:55. So I was just going to fiddle around until you got here, to be honest
It's
with
all
you.
good, man. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Well, thanks for being here. Hopefully you had a chance to look at the presentation that I sent to you. I think it's pretty solid information, but what we want to talk about right now is for sure, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. But what we've got is we've got some facts, some really good information that I think can help you make a decision whether you think it's worthy of moving forward now or waiting. And this is the question that I get all the time. And I'm convinced that people, if you don't know, if you're not sure of something, then you just don't do anything. And there's some merit to that. But once they have the facts, I think that it could make a difference in them making a good decision. That's kind of where I'm going to leave it. And notice
Decisions are good decisions. Yep.
I'm still basking in the glory of the Astros. I don't know. I may wear a jersey every day for the next year. I don't know. At least till the season starts. But I'm not going to make any excuses. So bottom line is, here's where we are. We're going to go over the pros and cons of buying a home right now, or an honest look into the question, is this a good time to buy? And I think that there's clarity in my mind that if it goes like I think it's going to go, I'm not going to go get ahead of myself, but I do think that this information will be helpful in you discerning which way to go. So with that said, here we go. We're going to add this to the stream. Pros and cons of buying a home right now. Look at that picture, Joe. You looking pretty smart there, buddy.
That's it, man. Must be the glasses.
Yeah, that's it. That is absolutely it. Let's see. I'm going to make that a little bigger for me here. There we go. I'm going to close that. And let's just rock on here. So if you are in the right place, if you're considering buying or waiting to buy a home, and there are a lot of people out there that are just like this, and there's two big questions, the two key questions, I think. And the first one is, where are interest rates going? The other one is, where are home prices going? So if we knew that, if we had an idea of those two things, then we'd have a pretty good idea on if we should buy now or not. The other things that are going to be in here is we're going to talk about, is a recession coming? And if so, what does that mean? Does owning still beat renting? And why, maybe? And what if I buy and then lose my job? Well, I don't care when you buy. If you lose your job, you better get a new job. Or are you going to have troubles? It's definitely that's an issue. Will rents go lower? Joe, what do you think? Will rents go lower?
Nope.
Not much chance of that. If they did, that would be something to talk about. Will rates continue to climb? You know, that's a question we don't know, but there's evidence that they seem to be stabilizing. And I'm an optimist. I'm the eternal optimist. So predicting the future is not the best thing I can do, but we're going to have some evidence that shows that they might go lower. All right, what are our experts saying about home prices? That one pretty clear. I mean, they're talking about it now. We're talking about what's going to happen in 2023, and we can look and see what they say. Homes have been very expensive. That is a fact. As a matter of fact, I think that within the last 6 months, home prices were as expensive as they've ever been, and we don't know if that's going to continue or not. And we'll talk about why they were so expensive. Will a recession bring down home prices? Could be. What do you think, Joe? Will a recession bring home prices down?
Probably a little bit, but we still have the supply gap that we're dealing with.
Yeah, the supply thing is really the thing that I'm using to make some of my assertions. I mean, it wasn't that long that we were in a housing frenzy. I think that's a very good description of it. And there was a housing frenzy because, well, I'm not going to get ahead of myself. We'll just see what that housing frenzy was about. And finally, does a recession affect my ability to get a job? And that's something that what we want to do is we want to be very clear and honest that these are amazing times. I mean, this is times that there is no history to look back on. There are evidences of certain things that we'll look back on, but as far as the nature of what is going on right now, it's not normal. I mean, these are extraordinary times. So this is kind of the slide that I kind of kick off with the two key questions. And what do you believe is going to happen with interest rates? And what do you believe is going to happen with home prices? We're going to try to give some clarity to that. But the first thing I show you there is a chart. This is an actual chart from 2000, month by month, of interest rates. And this is on record as going as the fastest increase in interest rates in the last 50 years. Never been anything like it. It was not pretty. I mean, every day rates would go up an eighth or a quarter or sometimes 3/8. And you see that there was a little bit of a dip. I mean, they went zoomed up. They held for a little bit. They went up. They came down a little bit. They zoomed back up. Right now, this 6.94, it's probably in and around that level right now. I mean, it's been in the sevens. I still think we can do sixes for most products, not all products, but most products. And it's been a ride, I'm telling you. When that happens, people tend to back off. I mean, they just, why pay double what you were paying just a month or two previously? On the housing part, it says for those bearish folks eagerly awaiting the home price crash, you may have to keep waiting. As much as demand is pulling back, supply is as well reducing downward. Pressure on prices in the short run. And this is by a guy named Taylor Marr. He's the chief economist at Redfin. And I'm not sure Redfin knows what they're talking about. I mean, they do have data, but it's just somebody's opinion. But Joe, what do you think? What's going to happen with houses in 2023? Are they going to continue to increase? Is there going to be appreciation, or are they going to come down some more?
I think the appreciation would be more modest than what it was in the last couple of years. But I still do think that there is appreciative value for properties and homes, especially in the area. Can't speak for the rest of the country or even the rest of the state, but around our area, the Houston area, I think we should be in pretty good shape.
We've talked about this multiple times on our show, Better Credit, Better Home. The premise is that pricing, particularly the last, well, let's just say May, June, July, the pricing during that period was probably overpricing in a lot of cases. There were a lot of people that were still anticipating the increasing prices that had happened a year and a half, 2 years prior to that. And a lot of people argued with the realtor, didn't price what the comps were, and they overpriced. Those guys are going to come down. The major cities, the Austins, for example, in Texas, and the San Franciscos and the San Diegos and stuff like that, they did the same thing. They're all suffering these bigger downturns. But for the people that price their home right, that's consistent with comps, I don't think they're going to see much of a downturn or a discount. Now, what there'll be a little bit longer time on the market, just because there are a lot of people that have decided they don't know what they should do, right? They're in that point where they're saying, I'm not sure if I should be buying a house now, even if it is a great price. And that's the people that we want to talk to today. So home prices are just starting to fall. This is from the Motley Fool. If you know who the Motley Fool is, they're basically a house that practices giving investment advice. They don't do just real estate. They do stocks, bonds, they pick stocks, and they're actually got a pretty good record. But here's what they say. There's been a lot of talk of a housing recession. Home sales are down for the 6th consecutive month. Home sales, that means the number of homes that have sold have been down for the last 6 months. A growing number of sellers are reducing their prices as home buying demand weakens. So, okay, I'm going to finish. There are clear signs that the market is headed for a correction, and we're just at the start of the changing conditions, meaning prices will likely continue to fall in the near future. So I don't see anything wrong with any of that stuff, but I think it needs to be taken in mind that the reason people aren't buying or aren't in the market right this second is because they're got sticker shock for interest rates. There are people out there buying houses. You guys are selling houses. We know that. You see it. There are people that just have to move. There's sometimes you just have to do something, and whether it's 7% or 3% or 10%, people are going to move. They are out there still looking. So what's happened is there's less people in the market because a lot of people that might be ready to sell are waiting because they're not sure if this is the right thing to do. So that's what this is about. All these things are right, but I don't think that you're going to be able to expect a huge discount on your homes. I think concessions are not unreasonable, but as far as big discounts, if it's a nice house that's updated and is move-in ready, they're going to get their price. We're seeing that.
Yeah, and there's already a consensus within the realtor kind of online forums and people thinking about, well, at the beginning of the year, we were selling homes in less than 2 weeks. What's the new average? What's the new norm? And people are already saying 30 to 60 days to sell a home. There are things that you can do as a seller to do that, but price is what you were talking about. Price is what's going to matter to the market, especially if they're looking at higher interest rates. So pricing it according to what the market will bear is going to be very important for sellers going forward. If not, then they can expect their home to sit on the market for 30 to 60 days for sure.
Yeah. If they don't price it right, and there's never been a bigger need for realtors that know what they're doing, that have experience, than right now to give the people that are out there selling their houses and buying houses the guidance that they need to be in this market. And this is what we hopefully are doing right here. So this chart, there's two charts here. The one on the left is basically from 2000 to 2022 of October. So, and you can see this number, and I don't know how well this is coming across on the thing, but this is just below 250,000 here, and this is just above 310,000 here. And this is, of course, the rise in prices wasn't dramatic, but it was slowly increasing. And you can see right about probably May, if I had to guess that this is May, then this is when the home selling prices is down. This says the medium sales price. Okay, so what's happening is it's dipped from about 350 to about 310, and this is in the Houston area. On the right side here, the chart I have is what some people that are considered experts, Fannie Mae is one, Zelman's another, NAR, National Association of Realtors. I'm not sure about HPES. It's some investment company. And then you got an M&A or MBA that are out there that are projecting what they see as price forecasts for homes in 2023. So you've got 3 out of the 5 that are saying positive. I actually saw this on a different, from a different entity that put this thing out, and they were all above 0. So this means that there's going to be a loss of the home value, a 1.5% negative depreciation on houses. These guys said 4%, but not NAR says 1.2%. I imagine they would be optimistic. And these two, 2.8 and 2.6. I think I'm somewhere around here. I think that if you've been in a house and you marked it what the value was this year compared to what it's going to be next year, obviously it's going to be neighborhood specific, very local specific, but it's not a big reason to get too concerned about that. Now, from a buyer side, this has got to be good information, because the last 2 years, what was the increase in home prices over the course of the last 2 years?
$13 to 20%, somewhere around there, I'd imagine.
Yeah, it was in the double digits. I mean, I think one of them was 18 or 19%. The other was 18 or 19%. I mean, it was ridiculous. And there's never been a time when homes have appreciated that fast, or particularly that quickly too. So we used to be very happy with a 3 or 4% increase in our home value, over the course of a year.
And that's probably where we're going.
Well, and that's right. I think there's a move back towards normalcy, assuming some things, okay? And there's some things that I want to talk about as we get in here. So, but if it was just this information, the fact that home prices are coming off the high levels that they've been at, and home prices are getting more reasonable, you can buy with concessions and you can get discounts on the house. I would say, as a home buyer, that might not be a bad thing. Do you agree?
I agree.
So, right. All right. So I will acknowledge it's been one of the most expensive housing markets in history. We had 2 years of low interest rates and short housing supply. It drove year-over-year home price growth into the double digits. June 2022 was the highest median home price recorded in U.S. history. And on top of the high home prices, higher interest rates make it an extremely expensive time to buy a home. So on top of high home prices, higher interest rates make it an extremely expensive time to buy a home. So what if the interest rates started going down? Would it be a good time to buy then?
Yep.
So this is what I listen to some of the gurus that are in the market, in the investment cycles, the bond market, those kind of things. And there is a very solid group of experts, and they may not know anything, but I figure they do. They're pretty smart. They've projected and predicted things pretty well in the future, many times in the past. So I'm saying rates might get lower. And what could happen when rates get lower? Will the frenzy come back? Because the one thing we can tell you is there is a shortage of housing right now. Now, think of this: for the market that's right now, there's abundance of inventory right now for the number of buyers that are out there. So this right now is a very good time for you to go out and look at houses, because there's not that many people looking for houses right now because the interest rates are high. But if the interest rates go down, and how far down do you think they have to go? Any idea?
I'd say into the fives, probably where we need to be.
Well, so the predictions are that rates could be into the low fives, even.
Yeah.
When that happens, I'm guessing that the housing frenzy will flare back up, just like it was this last 2 years for that matter. And so let me go through this slide though. A recession could be coming, okay? I'm gonna show you on the next slide the number of people that think a recession is coming. But on top of a housing recession, there's been a lot of talk lately about a potential economic recession. Recessions are usually marked by changing employment opportunities as spending tightens. Some companies cut jobs to preserve capital, leading to higher unemployment. If you secure a mortgage at one of the most expensive times to buy a home and lose your job or get a pay cut, it could leave you with a mortgage you're unable to pay. Now, this is real. There's a lot of confidence by experts from all over the economic sphere that say that, I think it's about 65% of them say that there is going to be a recession within the next 6 to 9 months. That's just what they're saying. And they're saying that because the interest rate, not only mortgage interest rates, but the short-term rates are causing companies, just like it says here, to lay off people, to let people go, they have concerns about what's happening in the marketplace. So if you are one of those people that works in a fragile work environment, and I'm not going to describe what I think is a fragile work environment. You have to do that yourself. But I can tell you right now, it's not a good time to buy. I mean, if you're in a fragile work environment, the one thing that makes housing work is long-term stability. So if you are in any of those circumstances where, and some people aren't going to know, but just be aware, we're saying right now, this is like our disclaimer, is that if you are in any kind of fragile employment opportunity, maybe a commission salesman that's or something to that effect, or overtime, people that were count on overtime money, and you're counting on overtime to stay, those are the kind of things that it might not be a good time for you right now, because we can't say anything's for sure. So there's probably a missing slide in here, but this is mortgage rates after previous recessions. Maybe I did. I'm gonna go one more and just see if I did this. I did backwards, yeah. That's not it. All right, we're gonna go back. So there is a slide that I shall put in here. I'll make a note to do that right now, that talks about the number of economists that feel like there's going to be a recession, and it's gotten more each month as the Fed has tightened or increased the rates. But what they want to do, or what they want us to do, is they want us to look what mortgage rates did after previous recessions. Okay, and so in 1980, interest rates went down 4.25. Now, if you remember anything about the 80s, and here 5%, this was a brutal year. The 80s were really tough on interest rates. In 1991, they went down 2.25. In 2001, they went down 5/8 of a point. In 2008, they went down 1 1/8. And in 2020, they went 1% down. So this is pretty consistent that you're going to if there is in fact a recession, that interest rates are likely to go down based on the experience of the last 6 recessions that we've had. So that we can count on that. And we do believe that there's going to be a recession based on what everybody's saying. So this is a good sign that there's going to be a little bit of a lower interest rate, if not other factors to do the same thing. I read just this week that the Fed, who's been raising interest rates about 75 basis points on the last 2 or 3, is starting to talk about the end of raising the interest rates. And that too will have a positive effect of the bond markets, because we know that the raising of the Fed interest rates is causing our rates to go higher too. So anyway, I think that's encouraging. This is home prices depreciated for 5 years. So in this is ugly. This was the 2008 recession, and for 2000, it's 2006, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. The home prices depreciated for 5 years, and they really lost it in that 2008 was a brutal time. And then they started appreciating again. 2012, 7.3, 2013, 9.6. The point of this slide, though, is that the type of recession that we're having today and the housing setback is different than it was back in 2008. One, our jobs, we're full of jobs. I mean, our unemployment rate is very low historically. We also, the big part, the reason for this housing recession that we had back in was that mortgage lending was very loose. And I was there. I can tell you, you could fog a mirror, you could get you a 100% stated income loan, and it just took a lot of recovery. There was a lot of bad loans in there that they had to recover from. The other thing is that the housing supply at that time was definitely more than what we've got today. So I like to point that out. And there is potential for houses losing money after we go through this recession, but it won't be anything like this. All right. Another disclaimer type thing: buying now could put you underwater later. So here's the deal: buying a home today means paying at or near peak pricing. With the housing are up, the rates are up. Considering home prices are starting to fall, declining home values could cause you to be underwater, where you owe more than the home is worth. And this has happened, and particularly California, it comes to mind on that. Fitch Rating is predicting a 10 to 15% decline in prices. That's aggressive. Considering most buyers put 10 to 20% down to buy a home, the point of being underwater could be reached quickly. And being underwater isn't a huge problem unless you want to sell. So even if you lost some value in your home, it's like owning stocks that go down. If they come back, it doesn't hurt at all. Same thing. It's why we talked about in the previous slide that if you are in a position where you're on a fragile work environment, then you just have to be a lot more careful than others that are very solid in their employment and they can get through this potential slide. But again, this would be the people that if they're sitting on the fence, I'd say get off the fence and stay where you're at for the time being, because the fragile jobs right now, that is danger. There's no doubt about it. If you need to sell in the near future, it could be challenging. This is starting to happen. Foreclosures nationwide are increasing. And it's not huge, but they're increasing. And the only time foreclosures increase is when the opportunity to sell is not there. So hopefully you plan to buy a home and stay there for a while. If prices fall and your home is underwater, you may be forced to sell your home in a short sale. That's where a short sale is where the bank agrees to accept the payoff less than what's owed. It comes across on your credit just like a foreclosure. It may be just slightly better than a foreclosure, but it's effectively the same thing. A short sale isn't great for your credit and is a timely process that leaves you with little or no money left for your next housing. And even if your home retains its value and you have equity when it's time to sell, selling in a down market takes longer. It isn't easy. More housing supply, lower demand mean it can take longer to sell, and you'll likely get much lower pricing. So that's why we wanted to be very clear and tell you that there are cons on buying right now, but there are pros. And it just depends on where your position is, what kind of financial state you're in, if it's good or bad. I'm still convinced that buying still beats renting. Joe, what's your cut?
Yep. Yeah, so, I there are very few circumstances where you'll catch me saying that renting makes more sense than buying a home.
And it's usually specifically to a situation that's borrower related, if I'm not mistaken. And don't get me wrong, you can't just go buy any house. That's again why you need a good realtor to guide you as to what kind of house you want to buy to make sure that there is appreciation. And I mean, I can tell you, I think the follow-up to this presentation is how to make sure, or to do everything you possibly can to make sure that your house appreciates when you buy, because that's got to be a big deal. But here it says rents have grown almost as quickly as home prices. So the rents are going up as long as interest rates are going up. In many markets, buying a home is more affordable than renting. And not to mention that renting builds the landlord's equity, leaving you with nothing at the end of the lease. So that's just what you don't want to do. Is you don't want to build the landlord's equity. You want to build your equity. Yeah. And buying today secures your interest in a home, building equity over the long haul with each payment you make. So every time you make a payment, you're paying some principal down from the price that you paid. And what the beauty is, and why home buying and home buyers were in such a frenzy, is with basically extremely historically low interest rates, the amount of money that you paid each month towards your home was a lot more than it is when the rates are higher. So that was one of those things that it was an absolute slam dunk that you were going to win on your house if you bought a house back in those days. Now you have to be a little more discerning, I think. So this is a chart, rent prices since 1988. You can, and keep in mind the bottom left here is 1988, and this would be a slow rise. And just look here, probably in the last 10 years, rents have shot up. And I mean, if as we go into 23, they're going to be still going up. I mean, rent prices are going to go up. So, I mean, it's a temporary option, and it's one that we don't think is going to be a great win for you. So long-term values are still in your favor. This long-term trends favor positive home price growth when held for 10 to 15 years. Like the stock market, the values decline in some years and rise quickly in others. Taking a long-term approach to buying means you're likely securing a home for far less than will be worth 10 to 15 years from now. So, Joe, I don't know if I told you this. I probably did. We've been on enough shows to hear this story. But when we bought our house, I don't mind telling you what we paid for it. We paid $135,000 for this house back in 1992. Yeah, that's right, 1992. And for the first 10 years, that home did not gain one dime. At the end of 2002, it was still, our market was still $130,000 to $140,000, $50,000. Didn't go anywhere. But since then, and that's the way appreciation works. It goes up and down and up and down. And positive things happen to the market. Maybe the highway got built. Maybe the shopping was better. More people were attracted to Kingwood for whatever reason. And I mean, it's just a matter of staying in a house. And I can tell you a couple more personal stories where the longer you can hang on to the house, the better you're going to be in that house. And you got to take care of it. You got to improve it. You got to do the things you want to do. But this chart here is based on that. And I'm thinking this is 2022 to 2027. It's looking at a home which was at one point the median priced home $360. By the end of 2027, 5 years later, it'd be worth almost $100,000 more, assuming that you took care of the house, you kept it updated, and the appreciation was where it should be. But that's their projections. So this was hard for me to put this in here because I'm not sure I believe it. Interest rates will likely keep rising. And the reason we put that in there is because we do not want to speculate that rates are going to come down, because at this point they haven't. Okay. Even though if there is a recession, we'll get a little bit of a stability. I personally do believe that interest rates are going to be below 6% within the next 6 to 9 months, but we're not going to stay that. Even though I just said it, on this slide, I'm sticking to it. Interest rates will likely continue climbing as the Federal Reserve tries to tame inflation. Okay. Well, that's about the amount of time that we expect them to do that. Once they stop that, I think the market could stabilize. That means today's interest rates are likely less. Today's interest rates are less than if you were to buy in a year or two. Again, this came straight out of the Motley Fool. I'm going to assume that they know what they're talking about, and I'm going to leave it like it is. Plus, you always have the benefit of being able to refinance if rates drop in the future. So this is, I think, we're going to round it off and say, okay, so home prices are dropping a little bit now. So they're off the most expensive they've been. And there's a pretty fair chance that rates will be about the same, modestly higher, maybe modestly lower. If they get modestly lower, you get the opportunity to refinance. Now, not everybody can refinance, but I'll just state that too. So that's just a heads up. Getting a mortgage today helps combat inflation. This is a fact. Inflation is a decades high, eating away at the dollar's buying power. Okay, that inflation is bad. It eats away at your buying power. Securing a fixed rate mortgage, even at a higher interest rate, means locking in your payment at today's value. So as inflation eats away at other people's buying dollars, your whole housing expense stays the same. And as long as you can meet the guidelines and qualify today, that mortgage payment should get better in the scheme of inflation. A mortgage payment now may not seem cheap, but it will almost certainly be a more affordable payment than renting which will continue rising and adjusting for inflation. So just fixing your housing cost, which is one of the main expenses, has got to be a positive thing. One other little thing, this is again in the Motley Fool thing, buying a home comes with certain tax advantages. Not huge these days unless you buy a really nice big house, but buying a home today also unlocks certain tax advantages, like writing off the interest paid on your mortgage, the taxes that you pay on your mortgage, particularly in Texas. Rising rates mean you're paying more in interest over time, but thankfully you can deduct that from your tax basis. So there is tax advantages good for buying a house. So Joe, I think that we're right at the back end of this. What are you thinking right now?
So I saw this meme, I think it was yesterday or today, and it said, and I think in a nutshell, this is what this whole presentation was about, which I highly agree with, which is buying a home today at 7% rates at $30,000 less than list is a better deal than where we were a year ago buying a home at $100,000 over list at 3% rates. There was no there was no disclaimer on that, but I'm disclaiming
No
that.
math.
Yeah, there was no math, but that makes sense. That makes sense, and you're able to choose the house that you want. There's a little less pressure. I think the most important thing, which is when we get together on our other calls, is just make sure you're protecting yourself. And what does that mean? That means being as informed as you can by hiring professionals or teaming up with professionals like Mike, myself on the real estate sales side, but even more importantly these days, teaming up with somebody that can take care of you on the inspection side to make sure that you're well informed of what you are getting yourself into. And what I mean is, what is the general condition of the house at the time that you're going to purchase it? Because if you're buying a house and it's upwards towards the top end of your budget, but it's the house that you want, if you're into that house and you get into it and you didn't know about AC problems or you didn't know about plumbing problems, then those are things that are going to come up and be painful for you as a homeowner, and then also would affect some of the appreciative value that you would get over time. So just make sure that you're contacting professionals like Mike and myself to help you through that process, and that's what we're here for.
Yeah. So I totally agree with all of that, is that you've got to have people that know what's going on, that know what causes house to appreciate, know what causes house not to depreciate or appreciate. If you do that, you're going to be okay. And like I said, you can save it. If you're wondering so let's just look forward. If home prices, rates come down and the frenzy starts again, home prices are going to go back up. There's a shortage of houses. It's very important that you understand there's a housing shortage. There's not enough houses out there for the number of people that will be in the market when rates come down. So you kind of going, well, wait a minute. That means if I wait, it's not good for the consumer then either. So I'm convinced that if you've got the money for down payment, if you've got the credit for down payment, this is probably as good a time as you might find between now and maybe the 1st of March. I think that there's a window right now for a savvy buyer to get out there and find the house of their dreams. And I think that you will be well rewarded with that. And then hopefully that the interest rates come down the latter part of 2023 and we can refinance it. So that's kind of where I'm feeling right now. Now it could be changing tomorrow depending on what the election does. So here's what we covered. We got the 2 key questions. What are interest rates going for? What are home prices going to go for? We don't know. Is a recession coming? And if so, what does that mean? Well, we think there is going to be a recession. Does owning still beat renting? Absolutely. What if I buy and then lose my job? You're screwed. No, I didn't say that. But really, you're in big trouble. Could have been worse. Don't lose your job. I mean, you're going to continue working. Will rents go lower? They won't. What rates continue to climb? Sorry about that, Joe. I hope I didn't offend you or anybody else.
No, I love it. This is
what
just that humor. We missed it earlier, so we got it at the end.
There you go. Will rates continue to climb? They could. We just don't know what they're going to do. Where are home prices going? They're they're steady right now, but they're going to go up when the rates come down, if they do. What are experts saying about home prices? What we just said. Homes have been very expensive. They've taken a dip. They're going to come back. Will a recession bring home prices down? We'll just have to see. It depends on how many buyers are out there. Does a recession affect my ability to get a job? Yeah, it does. There are going to be more people looking for jobs. So there's some bad news out there, but there's a lot of good news too, if you just how you take it. But if you want to know more about finding houses, I want you to call Joe Salas. His number is right there. And then what we do on this next slide is we say, are there any questions? And Joe, I don't know if I'm going to look here and let's just see. I did put this out on some sites today. Let's see.
I don't see any comments on my side, Mike.
Yeah, I don't either. But if in fact you do have questions, this is who you call. You got Mr. Joseph Salas has got his phone and his email. I hope he's okay with. No, I don't. That's not your.
No, that's it.
That's it. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
so,
that's on my sales side.
Yep, sales side. And then you can call me also, or you can email me. I'd love to talk to you. If you have any questions, and obviously anybody that sees this after this particular presentation, please don't hesitate to contact us. We promise we're going to give you an honest view of what we think. And I just happen to be an optimist. So, all right. Talk to you guys soon. Joe, thank you for showing. I'll talk to you next time, buddy.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, I'll be in touch.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.